Blog Talk Radio.
They lock up people like me, deposit us in concrete rooms with padded walls, distance from sun and fresh air. It's for your own good, they say, like the forcefully injected drugs and mind-shattering electroshock called therapy. They'll have you sign for what will be your own demise, signature confessing consent to such torture, drool sliming down a Cheshire grin as you're too out of it to respond or no different. This will cure you of the voices in your head, or at least stop the objection over screams of resentment. They call this evil in any civilized world, but here it's labeled treatment under the guise of doctor protocol, mental health supervision. The only difference between the raving lunatic, the babbling idiot, and the prophetic seer is one knows when to speak and whom to speak with, guarding secrets and vision. The other speaks to anybody about anything with no foresight, concern, or care of consequence and retribution. Therein lies the grand but yet subtle deviation. Watch where it is you wander, friend. The night has strange requiem. This way to paradise. Welcome, friends, readers, listeners, viewers, from wherever you may be tuning in. I'm your host, Garcia. This is FallenAngels.tv. It's September 28th, 2013, and we've quickly entered into fall. And already here in Georgia, the temperatures are dropping. There's a really nice and cool breeze, along with the steady warmth of sunshine and the blessing of what is still just really nice and comfortable days and beautiful temperatures. This is an awesome time of the year, and I really enjoy fall. I prefer spring because that, brings on a full next 3 months of summer, which is my favorite time of the year. But fall is beautiful and a pleasure to be witness to and to be part of the creation and to watch the subtle transition into what is the slumber time of the year where plants rest and all the leaves lose their color and trees shed their leaves. I hope that wherever you may be, that you also are blessed to experience just the beautiful and the beauty of fall and its grand appeal. That was a poem that I just wrote earlier today, and I was just thinking about, the poor people that have over time and history have been locked up for just having the capacity to see things which are beyond the norms of what are, the people that are, if you can label anything normal, but the people that are part of the matrix and that watch over and keep control and guard against others that are that have special privilege to be able to see or to hear or to understand. And as far as the spirit, I know that there's a lot of people that also speak to demons and that have, the dark forces speaking to them and asking them to do certain things that are being taunted and to provoke to commit crimes and acts of deviance that certainly Satan and his minions and the fallen angels do work in such capacity, and that for those that are mentally not sound or that have messed with Ouija boards or that do drugs which, cloud their minds or open them to such possession, like I remember a few years back when all of the different episodes were happening where people that were utilizing those bath salts that are being sold in a lot of the different gas stations and the different shops which cater to things like that, that easy access to such things has caused many people to lose their minds. And there was a time just a couple years back when there was story after story about people that were using such substances that found themselves even eating the flesh of others, killing their children, and many stories. And I posted a number of those on fallenangels.tv during the time when all of that was happening. There was one story which really stands out and which was well televised as to all these different episodes occurring. And that was one man in, I believe it was Miami, Florida. He had used some of these bath salts and was running naked down the street until he came upon this homeless man, and then he began to cannibalize him and basically ate his face off. I think even consumed one of his eyeballs until he was shot to death in the street by the police, who were just horrified over having to witness such an episode. And then there was a rash of these things happening across the United States. I remember there was one story of a woman who had killed her child and cannibalized his brain. And certainly these, are demonic influences, that demons are occupying these people during the time when they are rendered high on these substances, and that these beings which are performing such horrific and abominable acts, and that, and not saying that these people aren't responsible, because certainly they are, but that doorways are opened into which these kind of influences and these kind of spirits do take over people and act in such horrific ways. Like voodoo ceremonies, a lot of times these different people that are they're doing these different voodoo ceremonies, they invite the spirits to take over them, and then certain acts like this can happen, and that certainly in pagan rituals over time and history, that these kind of things did occur and were invited to happen by people that were willing to become possessed by such spirits, and that even the elite of the world today, they are directly involved with such rituals. Anyways, I didn't want to go off into the darkness of such behavior, but it does happen. It does happen, and it's still happening. Anyways, I'm going to cover today, the name of the show for today is Seekers of Lost Paradise. And for those that are part of our website at fallenangels.tv and that are have joined us for fellowship there, we know that our motto for the website is a seeker of lost paradise may seem a fool to one who has never sought the other world. And that was also, one of the reasons why I wrote the poem that I did, because so often people that seek the kingdom and that make it a priority for their lives, that make relationship with the Most High, with the divine, with God and His Son, we're considered crazy, especially when you are granted vision, insight, which helps one to see through the matrix and to understand the deeper reality of what is veiled and what only a few really in the world understand and are privileged to. That and there have been people throughout the different eras of history that are granted such vision, have such insight, and when they speak about these things and share them, relate them in writings or scripture, or when they, like for the pre-Adamic humans that drew such images of what they saw on cave walls and were trying to describe the Nakash, these feathered serpent type beings, and what is the devil and Satan, the ancient dragon, as spoken about in Revelation 12, or the fallen angels as the ancient aliens and as users of high technology, and for them to, even for the patriarchs like Ezekiel, trying to describe what he saw, and for John writing Revelation and trying to give a good description of what he was witness to in his vision. Joel in chapter 2, when he's speaking about the return of the Nephilim and the loosening of the locust army. Those kind of things are things that not a lot of people understand. And certainly the patriarchs of old, writing about the things that we would be witness to today, certainly didn't understand what it was that they were privileged to see. And in writing down what they wrote down, they had difficult time trying to use the words and the verbiage of their era in trying to portray such vision, so that we, as the Fig Tree generation, as being those that would be witness to the unfolding of all things, could understand the meaning of what they were trying to convey. And so I do want to just say hello to everybody in the chat room, and thank you for taking the time to join us today. And I appreciate all of your fellowship, and for the new people that have joined us as well. I appreciate you taking the time to listen to what I have to say, and I'm going to be covering some of these secrets, speaking about some of the things that, in my mind, I believe are those things that Christ was speaking about and writing about in chapter 13 of Matthew. And I actually want to start with chapter 13 of Matthew to kind of set the premise, to set the course for what I'm going to be going into. And then I'll actually list those topics and those issues and tell you why it is that I think that they are important to know, and that especially for this day and age. And so beginning with Matthew chapter 13, verse 10, and then I'll make commentary after I read through this. But I will be reading some things today, and then sharing also a lot of commentary. But I will give you the passages so that if you would like, you can look them up later for yourselves and read them in their fullness, in their entirety, to see how they link up with what I'm going to be covering today. Verse 10. And the disciples came and said unto him, Why speakest thou unto them in parables? He answered and said unto them, Because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given. For whosoever hath, to him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance. But whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away even that he hath. Therefore I speak I to them in parables, because they seeing see not, and hearing they hear not, neither do they understand. And in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah, which saith, By hearing ye shall hear, and shall not understand, and seeing ye shall see, and shall not perceive. For this people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes they have closed, lest at any time they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and should understand with their heart, and should be converted, and I should heal them. So you can see in this passage, which Christ gives a perfect example of, why it is that he uses parables, and how only the elect and the few, those that are the wheat, that are of the sheep, that they are concerned for the kingdom and for the knowledge of the kingdom, for the wisdom that he had shared with the early church and the apostles so long ago. And that there were those that were so interested and so concerned with the things that he was sharing and with the behaviors and the life that he led, that they wrote down all things that they were privileged to experience with him as friends and disciples of his. And they knew that the things that they were witness to would be important for a later generation, and that many would be fed from their words and from the things that they shared. But continuing, but blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. For verily I say unto you, that many prophets and righteous men have desired to see those things which you see, and have not seen them, and to hear those things which you hear, and have not heard them. Hear ye therefore the parable of the sower. When anyone heareth the word of the kingdom, and understandeth it not, then cometh the wicked one, and catcheth away that which was sown in his heart. This is he which receiveth seed by the wayside. But he that receiveth the seed into stony places, the same is he that heareth the word, and anon with joy receiveth it. Yet hath he not root in himself, but dureth for a while. For when tribulation or persecution ariseth because of the word, by and by he is offended. He also that receiveth seed amongst the thorns is he that heareth the word, and the care of this world, and the deceitfulness of riches, choke the word, and he becometh unfruitful. But he that receiveth seed into the good ground is he that heareth the word and understandeth it, which also beareth fruit, and bringeth forth some 100-fold, some 60, and some 30. One other parable, and then we'll go into the things that I want to talk about this evening. And I do want to wish you Shabbat Shalom, and ask that the Father and Son lead us all in discernment this evening so that we can speak on a higher level, that we can share things that most people have not the eyes to see, the ears to hear, nor the mind to understand. That we can speak about the secrets that have been hidden since the foundations of the world, and that we would in turn, in understanding and comprehension, be able to share these things with our loved ones, our children, our family members, our parents, our grandparents, our extended family, acquaintances, those that pass us by on the street, that we will only chance to meet for a short time. Another parable put he forth unto them, saying, The kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which sowed good seed in his field. But while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat, and went his way. But when the blade was sprung up and brought forth fruit, then appeared the tares also. So the servants of the householder came and said unto him, Sir, didst not thou sow good seed in thy field? From whence then hath it tares? He said unto them, An enemy hath done this. The servants said unto him, Wilt thou then that we go and gather them up? But he said, Nay, lest while ye gather up the tares, ye root up also the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. And in the time of the harvest I will say to the reapers, Gather ye together first the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. One last verse, and then I'm going to explain the story that I just went over. In verse 35, it says, I will open my mouth in parables. I will utter things which have been kept secret from the foundation of the world. And in this last parable that I just read about the garden and how an enemy had snuck into the garden and sowed tares among the wheat, and how Christ said to not chop down the tares, because in doing so, the wheat would be sheared also. But he said, let both grow together until the time of the harvest. And that at that time, he will say to the reapers, gather ye together the tares, bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. This parable is basically a metaphor for life and for what is the Second World Age, which the Second World Age began with the deception, the beguilement of Eve, and the fall from paradise and the loss of immortality of both Adam and Eve, and how their bodies were transformed from that of an angelic, bright nature to that of flesh form. And that on the eighth day, they took on these bodies of flesh, where the prophecies of Genesis chapter 3 were then fulfilled, namely that Eve would be beguiled in the flesh and impregnated with Cain, and that Adam would have to work the soil to bring forth sustenance for what would be the progeny of his own children, which began with Abel, but because he was killed by his half-brother Cain, he was replaced with Seth, who fostered the Adamic line. That Cain, he was a seed of the serpent, and that the prophecy against that was said to the serpent that there would be enmity between the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent, that all of that would play out in what is revealed here as the wheat and the tares. And just as Cain was the firstborn, the first begotten of the devil, of Satan, it also says, but while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat. This is what is being referred to here in this particular parable. And it's my opinion that Matthew chapter 13 covers this, because this is one of the greatest secrets which is contained within the Word. And understanding the parable of the garden and what took place in paradise is tantamount for understanding the consequences of where we find ourselves now and how it is that we see and are witness to good and evil within this world. And just to give further verification of that, I'm going to read this last part of Matthew chapter 13, which is so very important. And then I'm going to go into the other secrets, because I've got a lot that I want to share with you today. And this is after he had spoken to the multitudes in parable form. Then Jesus sent the multitude away and went into the house. His disciples came unto him, saying, Declare unto us the parable of the tares of the field. He answered and said unto them, He that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man. Because Adam was created in the likeness of Yahushua, as the Word, as Adam of light, and as the visible embodiment of the invisible Father. Adam is the son of Yahushua, the Most High. The field is the world, the good seed are the children of the kingdom, but the tares are the children of the wicked one. The enemy that soweth them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the world, and the reapers are the angels. So here again, it is referring to the enemy that sowed the tares and that is responsible for the children of the wicked one. It calls him the devil. And as therefore the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so shall it be in the end of this world. The Son of Man shall send forth his angels. They shall gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, and them which do iniquity, and shall cast them into a furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Then shall the righteous shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Who hath ears to hear, let him hear. So here again, he is alluding the parable of the wheat and the tares with the harvest and the judgment at the end of the world that will set upon this second world age with his return. So that is one of the biggest secrets, one of the most important things to understand as far as the gospel and the things that are hidden and contained within. And some of the other things, we're going to be talking about those going into the next section. But that, in my opinion, is one of the biggest. And that when you can put the pieces together for that discernment, so much of what has contained and which is linked to the sons of God mating with the daughters of man and creating a race of giants, why it was that when Joshua was led into the promised land, he was told to kill every man, woman, and child, why it was that Saul even was told to spare none, and when he did, the kingdom was rent from him. And why David, was chosen to slaughter Goliath and his brothers who were giants. Why after the flood, Noah and his sons went to war against King Og of Bashan, who was also a giant. And how the presence and prevalence of giants within the history of humanity is a direct reflection of the enmity between the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent. And that this war between the seed lines is an ongoing extension of what was the war in heaven. And I'm going to talk about some of that. I'm not going to cover it in great detail. For those that want to know this whole line and the breakdown going all the way back to the beginning, I'm going to be speaking about that this Wednesday evening. I'll be on the Hijacker show, but I will be flying solo. The Hijacker had a death in his family last week, and so that's why there was no Wednesday night broadcast, but they have asked me to step in and to fill for him. And so over the course of that 2 hours, I'm going to be covering a lot of what I'm quickly going over this evening for that listening audience, which is basically made up mostly of those that are of a new age and that are being taken by the strong delusion that believe the fallen angels are the ancient aliens, that they are the creators of humanity. And so I'll be elucidating all of that as well. Yes, the Anunnaki. All right. So, another one of the most important things, which I'm not going to be going into today, and that you have heard me talk about much, is pre-existence, predestination, and pre-election, which, for those that know and are familiar to my work, my book, Sons of God, goes into that. But this next book, Skyfall, elucidates upon all of that with great detail. Unlike, well, I've never seen another book like it. And it ties together many of the extra-biblical, extra-canonical text and books from many myriads of sources to tie together this knowledge. And that book is like a puzzle of truth in bringing forth this information so that you can understand it in even greater detail than how I lay it out in my sixth book, Sons of God, which I do cover a lot of that in that book, but not like what will be revealed in this next book. And so I want to talk a little bit about going to the time when the angels were created by Yahushua as the Word, as the visible embodiment of the Father. That we know from John chapter 1 that the Father and the Son are one, and that He pre-existed all things, that they together pre-existed all things, and that it was from the fabric of God, the Creator, the Most High, that all of the rest of creation came into being, and that we are all part of what is the spirit, the energy, the consciousness of the Most High. And it was from that oneness, and the scientists call this the Big Bang, but it was from that oneness, that togetherness, that unity that was all creation. What is universe? One verse, one word. It was that initial construct that is God, that everything else came to be from it, and that it was the slowing down of the energy, the slowing down of vibration and energy and light that brought on all of the other spectrum and bands and wavelengths and colors of the spectrum of that energy. That when it's all combined together again, it's light. It's the brightness of white light, which that is God. And that the sun, who is described as being all light, he is the light of the world, the light of the universe. And so I'm going to share just a little bit about going back to the war in heaven and to that momentary pause, and how it was that the sun was introduced to who we are as the council of the mighty, the Morning Star administration, that we also pre-existed our bodies, and that we were witness to the crowning of the sun and the dominion that was given to him. From the book of the Bee, chapter 6, it says, "When the holy angels were created on the evening of the first day, without voice, they understood not their creation, but thought within themselves that they were self-existent beings, and not made. On the morning of the first day, God said in an audible and commanding voice, 'Let there be light.' And immediately the effused light was created. When the angels saw the creation of light, they knew of a certainty that he who had made light had created them. And they shouted with a loud voice and praised him and marveled at his creation of light. As the blessed teacher saith, when the Creator made that light, the angels marveled thereat. And as it is said in Job, when I created the morning star, all my angels praised me." Now, for those that are familiar, I believe it's in Revelation chapter 20, 19, 20, or 21. Christ declares himself as the original morning star. And the light that is being spoken about in this particular passage, and the morning star that is being referred to in this passage, is Christ, Yahushua, as the Word, not Lucifer as the morning star, because he was the first created archangel. But that the sun, because everything, think about this passage, everything was sitting in darkness. There was a momentary pause before Christ was crowned and given dominion and shown to the rest of the sons of God as the light that basically lit up the whole universe and brought all other things into visibility. And that before then, all the sons of God, and the creation sat in darkness. So, in going back to Genesis, where it speaks about let there be light, that was the revealing of the Son to the sons of God. And that is what is spoken about in Job as when the angels gave praise, because they were able to see and be witness to the creation. And it's important to understand this, because for those that do not understand that Yahushua, as it says in John chapter 1, that he pre-existed and was with the Father and the Son, the Father and the Son are one, and that it was they who made all other things, then you will not understand the majesty, the omnipotence of who the only begotten Son really is. And you will not understand the power, the authority, and the omniscience that he holds and that he is embodied with. Because most people think, especially for those that are caught up in the strong delusion that Christ was just another ascended master or another one of these fallen angels, you're wrong. You have to understand that he is the embodiment of the Father, that he is the Most High. I want to share just another couple passages which speak about his revealing to the world as the light of the world. It is he alone who came to be, that is the Christ. And as for me, I anointed him. This is from the trimorphic protonoia. As for me, I anointed him as the glory of the invisible Spirit with goodness. Now the three I established alone in eternal glory over the eons and the living water that is, the glory that surrounds him who first came forth to the light of those exalted eons. And it is in glorious light that he firmly perseveres, and he stood in his own light that surrounds him. That is the eye of the light that gloriously shines on me. This is the Most High speaking here. Then the Son, who is perfect in every respect, that is the Word, who originated through that voice, who proceeded from the height, who has within him the name, who is a light. He revealed the everlasting things, and all the unknowns were known. Now, what I'm about to read from is from the one other passage before I go into this. Revelation chapter 22, that says, And the city had no need of the sun, neither of the moon to shine in it, for the glory of God did lighten it, and the Lamb is the light thereof. Now, what I'm about to go into comes from chapter 24. Let me check the chat room real quick. Chapter 24 of the Book of the Secrets of Enoch. This is 2nd Enoch. And this is the only place, and Jazz had asked me this a long time ago, and I was unable to pinpoint it down at that time, but she had asked me how I knew that the rebellion and the insurrection of the fallen angels had occurred on the second day and before the creation of Adam. and how it was that I knew that the fallen angels had been cast down and cast out of the heavens, the upper heavens, and placed on the earth before the creation of modern humanity. And so this is where I get that information from. This is from chapter 24 of 2 Enoch, which is also known as the Book of the Secrets of Enoch. It says this: "And the Lord summoned me and said to me, Enoch, sit down on my left with Gabriel. And I bowed down to the Lord, and the Lord spoke to me, Enoch, beloved, all that you see, all things that are standing finished, I tell to you even before the very beginning, all that I created from non-being, and visible, physical things from the invisible, spiritual things. Hear, Enoch, and take in these my words, for not to my angels have I told my secret, and I have not told them their rise, nor my endless realm, nor have they understood my creating, which I tell to you today. For before all things were visible or physical, I alone used to go about in the invisible things, like the sun from east to west and from west to east. But even the sun has peace in itself, while I found no peace, because I was creating all things. And I conceived the thought of placing foundations and of creating physical creation. Chapter 25. I commanded in the very lowest part that visible physical things should come down from invisible spiritual things. And a doyle came down very great, and I beheld him, and lo, he had a belly of great light. And I said to him, Become undone, Adoyle, and let the visible, physical come out of you. And he came undone, and a great light came out, and I was in the midst of the great light. And as there is born light from light, there came forth a great age, and showed all creation which I had thought to create. So here in this passage in the book of the Secrets of Enoch, Christ is telling you exactly what I just told you about how he and the Father are one, and that he, the Father unfolded himself, and that he was the great light. Yahushua, as the visible embodiment of the Father, he was the great light, and that from this great light all other things came into being, and a great age was born. Because it's when what the scientists call that Big Bang, when that universe, one verse, the one word, when that one act, the expression, the unfolding began, that every other thing in creation began to be become witness and present to what was time, space, and change, because the Father and the Son were unfolding all things from themselves. And I saw that it was good. And I placed for myself a throne and took my seat on it, and said to the light, Come, and let us Go thence up higher and fix yourself high above the throne, and be about a foundation to the highest things. And above the light there is nothing else. And then I bent up and looked up from my throne. Chapter 26. And I summoned the very lowest a second time and said, let Archus come forth hard. And he came forth hard from the invisible. And Archus came forth hard, heavy, and very red. And I said, be opened, Archus, and let there be born from you. And he came undone. And age came forth very great and very dark, bearing the creation of all lower things. And I saw that it was good, and said to him, go thence down below, and make yourself firm, and be a foundation for the lower things. And it happened, and he went down and fixed himself, and became the foundation for the lower things. And below the darkness there is nothing else. So you can see how from the light came all the invisible, imperishable, and immortal things, and that the separation of light and darkness, which occurred on the second day, the separation of light and darkness, that is when the lower physical, lower dimensional world came into being. Continuing, chapter 27. And I commanded that there should be taken from light and darkness, and I said, be thick, and it became thus. And I spread it out with the light, and it became water. And I spread it out over the darkness, below the light, and then I made firm the waters, that is to say, the bottomless. And I made foundation of light around the water, and created 7 circles from inside, and imagined the water like crystal, wet and dry, that is to say, like glass, and the circumcision of the waters and the other elements, and I showed each one of them its road, and the 7 stars, each one of them in its heaven, that they go thus, and I saw that it was good. And I separated between light and between darkness, that is to say, in the midst of the water, hither and thither. And I said to the light that it should be the day, and to the darkness that it should be the night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. Chapter 28. And then I made firm the heavenly circle, and made that the lower water, which is under heaven, collect itself together into one whole, that the chaos become dry, and it became so. Out of the waves I created rock, hard and big, and from the rock I piled up the dry, and the dry I called earth, and the midst of the earth I called abyss, that is to say, the bottomless. I collected the sea in one place, and bound it together with a yoke. And I said to the sea, behold, I give you your eternal limits, and you shall not break loose from your component parts. Thus I made fast the firmament. This day I called the first created Sunday. Chapter 29. And for all the heavenly troops, I imaged the image and essence of fire, and my eye looked at the very hard from rock, and from the gleam of my eye the lightning received its wonderful nature, which is both fire and water and fire. And one does not put on the other, nor does the one dry up the other. Therefore the lightning is brighter than the sun, softer than water, and firmer than hard rock. And from the rock I cut off a great fire, And from the fire I created the orders of the incorporeal 10 troops of angels, and their weapons are fiery, and their raiment a burning flame. And I commanded that each one should stand in his order. And one from out of the order of angels, having turned away with the order that was under him, conceived an impossible thought, to place his throne higher than the clouds above the earth, that he might become equal in rank to my power. And I threw him out from the height with his angels, and he was flying in the air continuously above the bottomless. And in chapter 30, you see, on the third day, I commanded the earth to make grow great and fruitful trees and hills, and seed to sow, and I planted paradise, and enclosed it, and placed as armed guardians the flaming angels, and thus I created renewal. Then came evening, and came morning, the fourth day. So you see, Lucifer was cast out of the heavens on the second day, and that he and his angels were cast out with him. Now, there's a verse in Luke chapter 10, verse 18. It says, "And he said unto them, I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven." So here in this passage, you see that Christ, as the Word, as who Enoch refers to as Lord in this book of the Secrets of Enoch, that he indeed beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven, because he was the one that cast him from the heavens. And there's another passage from chapter 55 in the first book of Adam and Eve, which I'm not sure if I have that one here before me, but I'll look it up before the end of the show. But in that passage, Adam, as he's being cast out of paradise, as he's being banished to the lower earth where the fallen ones and the fallen angels had been banished to, he asked, I believe it's Michael, he asked him about why it is that Satan was so wrathful with him and Adam and Eve. Why he was taking such vengeance against them, and why he hated him so. And so Michael, in that story, relates to them how there was this war in heaven, and how Satan was banished and was cast out by Yahushua as the Word. And the reason that he took revenge against Adam and Eve, and I cover this in great detail in my fourth book, Lucifer, Father of Cain, and I share all of these different passages that I'm sharing with you now, and even more. He relates the story of why it is that Satan is so mad at Adam and Eve. And it's because he blames them for his fall from heaven, which occurs as a consequence of Adam of light having cast him and his legions out. And so Adam, who was created in the image of the Son as Adam of light, is the one that incurs the wrath of Satan, because Satan knows that he cannot take any revenge against the might of the Most High. And so putting the whole story together, you see that when the Father revealed the Son as the light and gave him dominion over the creation, this is the moment when, as it says in Ezekiel chapter 28 and Isaiah chapter 14, that iniquity was found within him, within Lucifer, and that he wanted the angels to worship him, and he wanted to have authority over them, which he did have. But that he wasn't satisfied with that. He wanted to be as the Most High. He wanted to be as Christ. And for that, he was cast out. Another passage from, this is the Gospel of the Secret Supper, which is a book that not many people have heard about. It says this, "And I said, Lord, before Satan fell, what was his glory besides your Father's? And he told me, such was his glory, that he governed the virtues of heaven. As for me, I sat next to my Father. Satan was the master of all those who imitated the Father. And his power descended from the sky to the inferno and rose again from the inferno to the throne of the invisible Father. And he observed the glory of him who transformed the skies, and he dreamed of placing his seat on the clouds of the heaven, because he wanted to be like the Very High. When he descended farther down, he found himself in the presence of the clouds weighing on the tidal waters of the sea. He went on until he got to his Osip, which is the principle of fire. After that, he could not descend farther because of the intense flame of the fire. And then Satan came in from behind and filled his own heart with malice. And reaching the angel of the air and the one who was above the waters, he said to them, everything belongs to me. If you listen to me, I will place my seat on the clouds, and I shall be similar to the Very High. I will withdraw the waters of the upper firmament and assemble all the areas occupied by the sea into one entity of vast seas. That done, there will be no water on the face of the entire earth, and I shall reign with you through the century of centuries." The Gospel of the Secret Supper. All right. I'm going to, let me first peer into the chat room here. Okay, it says few of you are having issues on here. Jazz is asking, where does that come from, the Gospel of the Secret Supper? It comes from many of you know that I've given you links to the Old Testament pseudepigrapha, which are really thick books that are collections of many of these apocryphal, extra-biblical, extra-canonical texts. I'll actually put a link in the chat room for y'all. Let me go ahead and pull it up real quick. But I would recommend that people purchase these books if you can. They're about $30 a piece. And I know for a lot of you that, it's difficult just trying to make it from, week to week, month to month. But if you can afford to get these books, hold on one second. I would most definitely do so because they contain a massive array and variety of texts that you cannot easily find, even on the internet. Snippets, scriptures, texts that are not widely available and little known about, and that a guy named James Charlesworth, I believe his name. Yeah. Hold on. Here it is. James H. Charlesworth. He was an Oxford scholar, and even to this day, he spends his profession is to meet with many of the people that are trying to sell on the black market these different texts and these different books. Even like with recently you had the Gospel of Judas, that he has been responsible for saving and also transcribing these many different texts and making them available to us as an English-speaking public. And so, for those, like myself, if you don't speak Aramaic or Hebrew, if you can't read the ancient languages in their own form, then the next best thing that we can do is to gain access to what are the English translations. And I most certainly would wish that I knew how to learn languages easy, because I would certainly commit the time to being able to learn ancient Hebrew, Aramaic, and to be able to read the text, these collections of ancient scriptures in their own, in their own form and placement. That would be just a dream. But I'm not that smart, so. But I certainly respect those that can. Anyways, I did paste the link to that particular text, those particular books, in the chat room. Now, if I can find it, I want to share with you that one passage about the war in heaven. So give me just a couple minutes here to see if I can locate that, because it is a very interesting passage. And I think you will benefit from hearing from it. So let me see if I can find it real quick. Very interesting passage. If I can't find it in a few minutes, I'll save it and share it with you on the next show before I bring on Dr. Joy, because she's going to be joining with me next week. Let's see. Oh, also, there's a book, The Gospel of Bartholomew, It says this, which this is a really interesting passage too, and since I just found it, I'll share this with you. From the Gospel of Barnabas, or Bartholomew, this is Satan speaking, which he's referred to as Beliar in this text. But it's very interesting in what he says here, which also aligns with what I just read from the book of the Secrets of Enoch. It says, "For if I were able, I would have destroyed you like one of them that were before you. For indeed, I was formed the first angel. For when God made the heavens, he took a handful of fire and formed me first. Michael second, for he had his son before the heavens and the earth, and we were formed. For when he took thought to create all things, his son spake a word, so that we also were created by the will of the Son and the consent of the Father." So here, Lucifer, or Satan, or Beliar, is basically Satan saying that the Son pre-existed, he and the other archangels, and that they were created from the thought, the will of the Son, and the consent of the Father, which is a very interesting passage. All right, let me see if I can find this real quick. Okay. Oh, yes. Okay, I found it. Very good. All right. This is from chapter 55 of the first book of Adam and Eve, which is part of the Forbidden Books of the Bible series. What's it called? The Forgotten Books of Eden. That whole series. It says this: "But now, O Adam, we will make known to you what came over us through him before his fall from heaven. He gathered together his hosts and deceived them, promising to give them a great kingdom, a divine nature, and other promises he made them. His hosts believed that his word was true, so they yielded to him and renounced the glory of God. He then sent for us, according to the orders in which we were, to come under his command and to accept his vain promise. But we would not, and we did not take his advice. Then, after he had fought with God and he had dealt forwardly with him, he gathered together his hosts and made war with us. And if it had not been for God's strength that was with us, we could not have prevailed against him to hurl him from heaven. But when he fell from among us, there was great joy in heaven because of his going down from us. For if he had remained in heaven, nothing, not even one angel, would have remained in it. But God, in his mercy, drove him from amongst us to this dark earth, for he had become darkness itself and a worker of unrighteousness. So, a couple things that this particular passage gives verification of. First, Lucifer in the war in heaven, the rebellion and the insurrection, took place before the creation of Adam and Eve, and before the beguilement of Eve that resulted in the impregnation with Cain and the birth of the seed of the serpent. And that he and his the angels that followed him, which were the angels of the Most High, but that joined him in rebellion, that he and these angels, these fallen angels, they were cast out to this dark earth, to where we find ourselves now, and where our ancestors, Adam and Eve, so long ago, where they found themselves banished to. That after the beguilement and after the consequence and the sentence was resulted in their loss of immortality, in their loss of their bright nature, and their fall from paradise to what is, this lower visible realm, this fleshly, visible, physical world, this carnal world, where we also, as the sons of God, now find ourselves incarnating into flesh form, that this is where they were placed. And so the megalithic structures and the cities and the buildings and the things that we find on this planet that were here before even, that could not have been done by pre-Adamic man, and that precedes the second age, which began with Adam and Eve, that all of these things were done by the fallen ones, whom are referred to as the Anunnaki, and that the men of renown referred to in Genesis chapter 6, the sons of Anak that are spoken about in Joshua, whom Noah and his sons went to war against, that when Moses and his people were taken out of the bondage of Egypt and taken into the promised land, that it is these people they were told to kill, every man, woman, and child. And it's also these beings and what they had created, and that they were the ones that also, brought up Atlantis and the things that occurred there. But it's their cities that are referred to in Jeremiah chapter 4, verse 23, where it says this: I beheld the earth, and lo, it was without form and void, and the heavens, and they had no light. I beheld the mountains, and lo, they trembled, and all the hills moved lightly. I beheld, and lo, there was no man, and all the birds of the heaven were fled. I beheld, and lo, the fruitful place was a wilderness, and all the cities thereof were broken down at the presence of the Lord, and by his fierce anger. For thus hath the Lord said, the whole land shall be desolate, yet will I not make a full end. So in this verse, Jeremiah is speaking about a time before the modern creation of humanity, when the cities of the wilderness were broken down. And these were the cities that the fallen angels had created and brought into being so long ago. I apologize to those that have called in that are on hold. I will try to remember in future shows to save some time for you to be able to call in to ask questions. Next week, Dr. Joy will be joining us to speak about her 3-book set, her new collection of work, From Eden to Armageddon, Beguiled from Eden to Armageddon, which basically covers all of what I just kind of went through and, very quickly from separate. I don't know that she covers the war in heaven and all the prior times and the things that occurred before them, but she definitely covers the garden parable and the things that happened to Adam and Eve in paradise that led to all of us being here where we are now, and that, she covers the end of the age, the end of days, and this last generation and all the things that are to unfold. And her works have been very prophetic in nature, and I will certainly remember to leave a period of time, maybe 20 minutes or so, and she's going to be on with us for 2 hours. So there will be plenty of time for you to ask her questions. I'll try to leave the last segment, the last 30 minutes, open for you to be able to ask questions and to, speak to her in your own way. But I just, once again, for all of those that have joined us, in fellowship, I appreciate all of you. I send my love to all of you. I ask the Father and the Son to watch over you, your families, your loved ones, your extended families, your pets, your children, grandmothers, grandfathers, aunts, uncles, cousins, all that, and to guide and to lead you in discernment, to help you to understand some of the secrets that have been held and kept hidden away since before the foundations of the world. Those things which the powers that be, the overseers, the Illuminati, are trying at all costs to keep away from you. They don't want you to know about these things. They don't want you to have a relationship with the Father and the Son. They don't want you to have concern or to seek the kingdom or to make it a priority. They don't want you to have any idea as to salvation and harvest and those things that are coming. They don't want you to focus on your first estate and having a return to it, or remembrance and knowing who you are while you're here and what all of this is about. They want you to remain oblivious and committed to the carnal aspects of world, life, and being. They want you to be good taxpayers and to go quietly about your business, get your education, and serve the corporation, serve the matrix, and be good slaves to the system. Work your 65 years until you're old out and worn out enough to finally retire and enjoy life. And as long as you buy into that and believe in it and hold that as, the American dream for your life, then all these things will lead you. So I pray that you make these things important for your own discernment, and that the Father and the Son, in recognizing you making them important, will lead, guide, and help you to understand all these things. In Yahushua's name, I pray. God bless all. Don't forget, Wednesday, Hijacker. I'll be flying solo.